Good evening, Active Claremont. Happy New Year. Starting us off for the new year, it's been a little while since we've had Sustainable Claremont with us. So we're really grateful to have them back. Tonight for you, we have Stuart Wood with Sustainable Claremont. We also, Happy New Year, as I said already, Active Claremont, we have our new president for 2021, Mr. Joe Pareca. Joe? Joe, duct tape. I forgot to unmute you. Duct tape. I'm sorry, Joe. It's okay. It's duct tapes and wires, everybody. I'm really sorry. Joe was so excited, and we wasted the good surprise on me. I'm sorry, Joe.
Okay. That's all right, Matt. I appreciate everything you do. I'm so excited to be the 2021 president for Active Claremont. I'm a relatively new homeowner here in Claremont, and I'm really excited to be involved. And I think that this is a great organization, and I'm just really excited to grow the community that we have and really offer as much as I can. As I spoke with Matt and John a little bit, I'm very new to this. I've never been president of anything before ever, but I'm very eager to learn, and I'm very eager to help. So I'm very excited, and I'm very excited to kick off kind of my first meeting as president with Sustainable Claremont. So I'm very much looking forward to it.
Awesome. Very good. And on behalf of everyone at Active Claremont, thank you, Joe, for stepping up to be our president as well. Really appreciate you being willing to dedicate some time to it. And Stuart, obviously, you're a part of a huge organization in Claremont, especially. I'm sure everybody is at least familiar with the name and at least a little bit of the great variety of services and educational topics that you cover. How about you introduce yourself, Stuart, and a little bit about Sustainable Claremont to start us off?
Yeah. Do you want me to hop into my presentation, or should I just?
If you have, unless you want to say a few words introducing yourself, or.
Sure. Yeah. My name's Stuart Wood. I'm the executive director at Sustainable Claremont for almost 2 years now. So February will be my 2-year mark.
Wow. Okay.
Still feel like a newbie, Joe. So I'm right there with you.
All right.
Yeah, and so we're Sustainable Claremont. A lot of people have heard our name or maybe seen us do tree plantings here and there, but we have so much going on. It's kind of incredible. It's this small community of Claremont, as you all know, there's just like so much going on, and tonight there's like 4 other presentations happening concurrently.
Right.
So we've got a lot going on. So I'm excited to present tonight and let everybody know who we are and what we do and how we can use your help.
Great. Real quick, regular rules apply for anyone that's new here tonight. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat. I'm watching the chat as we go. If I see your question, which I'm supposed to, so when I see your question, I will call it out and we'll get the answer for you. And if I skip your question, don't worry. I should keep a pretty good eye on things. I just want to make sure that we're not interrupting Stuart or anything. However, just because we're presenting or we're in the middle of a topic, if you have a question, feel free to chat it, and I will get to it as soon as I can. And Stuart, with that, the floor is yours.
All right, great. Let me go ahead and pull this up, and let me know if you all can see that okay. Is that
perfect?
Slide showing?
Looking good.
Looks wonderful.
All right, great. And Matt, feel free to interrupt me like at any time with questions. I prefer it, and we could address anything that comes up along the way.
Sounds good.
All right, awesome. So just a brief outline of my talk tonight. I'm just going to do a quick introduction about myself, a quick introduction to Sustainable Claremont, really focusing on our 2019-2020 calendar year accomplishments, which I think paint like a more clear picture of who we are and what we do, and then how we had to transition and why we had to transition, right, for all the obvious reasons, in the 2020-2021 program year, and what that means looking ahead. So what we're looking for in 2021, 2022, and beyond. And then I'll, of course, be happy to address any questions and any discussion Matt or Joe or anybody watching.
Sounds good.
Awesome. So here's this is me, Stuart Wood, Executive Director of Sustainable Claremont. So as I said, I'm here in almost year 2 at Sustainable Claremont. We live locally, but before I was at Sustainable Claremont, I worked at Shoes That Fit, another great Claremont nonprofit. And my wife works there now, my wife, Stephanie. Professionally, before that, I was a writer at another nonprofit, kind of hybrid nonprofit / think tank called Eco America. And I headed their communities and cities blog and content and all the writing around that. And I was an adjunct professor of environmental politics, American government, political science from University of Laverne and Pepperdine and Cal State University San Bernardino. But as you can imagine, driving from like Malibu to San Bernardino as an adjunct, it takes its toll. So that's in the past. I did my PhD here in Claremont at CGU in politics, political science. My 2 areas of specialty were political philosophy and American politics. My focus was on climate misinformation. And I live in Laverne, not Claremont, with my wife. And our 2 kids, Rue and Finn. And so if you hear a crying baby, it'll be Finn. And if somebody comes out and interrupts, it'll be Rooney.
Fair enough.
A very strong likelihood of that happening. Okay, so you guys are seeing the slide changes, right? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So our mission here at Sustainable Claremont, just who we are. So Sustainable Claremont engages people in education and action to create a more sustainable community, environmentally, socially, and economically in Claremont and beyond. And one of the things that I'll talk about tonight is how we're really starting to focus on that and beyond portion, and then the socially and economically portion. So we're kind of opening up the scope of our programs and what we do for a number of reasons that'll become more apparent later on in the talk. We're a small team, so this is actually, we're missing one of our part-time employees on here, Romeo Luida, who runs our community compost program. He came on officially in around this time last year, so almost a year. We have a small community compost program that we run at the Friends meeting site right by Pilgrim Place. And Angela Oakley is our other employee. She's our legacy employee. She's been there for like 2.5 years, so she outranks me. She runs our sustainability center, which is located at the Botanic Gardens. When life goes back to normal, we'll be back in our office, and she runs that resource center. But she also heads things like, when we have our Earth Day event, she's the lead on that. When we have these big projects, this collaborative projects with like Harvey Mudd College, she heads that. So she's doing a lot of different things. We're a small team, so we all are kind of wearing a lot of different hats. Nicole Lang, she's our Green Crew program manager. So she plans all of our planting events. As we'll talk about later, this year, last year and a half, we've really expanded our tree planting program, which is the program that probably most people know us for. For the past three years, we've been doing that program in Claremont, where we plant in city trees in residential easements or Claremont public land. And we've since expanded that to disadvantaged communities in Rancho Cucamonga and Pomona. So that's been one of our real highlights in the last year or so. And Nicole Lang has been one of the real, point persons on that and really instrumental in helping us do that.
Very cool.
And then there's me. We already talked about me. Okay, so these are just some top line accomplishments that we had in the 2019-2020 program year. And this is I'm really proud of these numbers, but there's still these are the numbers that we had with COVID present. And so you can imagine that,
wow.
With looking to next year, once we get back to normal, we'll hopefully see a big increase. So 350 volunteers, the volunteer hours around 1,500, 200 trees planted in 3 cities. At all of our different meetings, whether it's our garden club workshops or film screening, sustainability dialogues, we had over 1,600 people attend. So in a small community like Claremont, we're really reaching a lot of community members. And what's always really surprising to me is the number of people from like adjacent communities that are coming to Claremont because of the programs that we're doing. So that's always like an exciting thing. When we do like tree plantings, we'll get people driving from South Pasadena or Riverside, San Bernardino. Yeah. And so it's something that I think that is easy to sort of take advantage of. But like people are like hungry for like, actions that they could take that, like there's, if you care about the environment, there aren't many like tangible things that you could do in like a day to make you feel like you did it, made an impact.
Right.
But you go like plant a tree, that's like a real accomplishment.
Yeah.
And so we see like a lot of volunteerism and community input around, programs like that where people can come make a real difference. They could come back 10 years later and they could see what they did, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and not to stop you on that point, not to interrupt too much. I promise I won't. But I think also from what I've talked to a lot of people, I think there's a general sense of not knowing how to go about, like, even if somebody wants to do something like that in their own yard, there's a certain element of, but I really don't know what I'm doing. And to come out to an event like yours is kind of like, oh, that wasn't difficult.
Right. Yeah. Like that, one of our key things that we always try to keep in mind, like whether it's a tree planting or a composting workshop or whatever, is to have our programs like the easiest on-ramp to action with an impact as is possible. So like you said, like I didn't know how to like plant a tree before I came to Sustainable Claremont.
Right.
But you show up at one of our plantings, and the first thing we do is we teach you how to plant a tree, and it's not hard. Like anybody can learn how to plant trees.
Right.
And so, but you take that back with you, and now it's like maybe you wanted to plant 1 or 2 fruit trees in your yard, and you had just been waiting because you didn't know how to go about that. And so now you have this resource, Sustainable Claremont, and we helped you learn how to plant a tree, and we have a resource center. So if you need to know like where should you buy trees, you contact us and we could provide all that follow-up information. So it's always like trying to make that like first step as easy as possible.
Yeah, 100%. Very cool.
All right, cool. Should I move on?
No. Yeah, great.
All right. Awesome. And so just a couple more numbers from last year. We have our Sustainability Resource Center, which I mentioned Angela runs. Last year, we took in 120 plus inquiries, so people calling, looking for arborists in the area that they could reach out to, or resources for water conservation or water-wise landscaping, like you name it. We have like this list of local resources that we can provide to people for free, when they contact the Sustainability Resource Centers. So that's a really cool program that we have. And we try to keep it as updated as possible. Every year we go through it. We just went through the process of updating it, and updating the look of it the past like month or two. And so it's a great, again, just like a resource for people who want to get involved, want to make that next step, but just don't know how. We have a community compost program, which I just had a long meeting today about, a really great meeting that we're looking to really scale that up. For the calendar year I'm showing here, we have about 22, 25 households involved. And just those households produce 10,000 plus pounds of food waste that we composted. And,
wow.
Yeah, so like if that waste had gone to the landfill, that's the equivalent, greenhouse gas equivalent of 9,500 vehicle miles traveled. So getting in the way that we calculate this, there's this great tool on the EPA's website. It's like a greenhouse gas calculator that only like environmental nerds like me and other people I work with like know about.
Sure.
But you plug in like the poundage or the tonnage of properly composted material and see how much greenhouse gas is averted by composting instead of putting it into landfill where methane is created. And so you can imagine hopping in a Toyota Camry and driving 9,500 miles, right? But we avoided that by just having people compost in their community.
Yeah.
So again, like another really super cool program that we're looking to really scale up in these years and months moving forward. People get really amped about compost. It sounds weird, I know, but like I don't know if either of you guys compost, but once you start doing it, it takes over your life. Like you're always thinking like, can I put this in the compost? Can I not? Like, I know it sounds crazy, but it really is one of those things that like it becomes fun. It's like gardening or something like that. Something you're always kind of working on.
I think that falls in line again with what we were talking about. It's something where people don't know how to start, but then once they do, it's like, again, this is easy. Like this isn't as hard as I thought.
Yeah, and so just to speak to that, one of the things that I think we've not done well in the past is having the other hands-on opportunities to learn like this. So, it's one thing to have like, a dialogue like we're having now over Zoom or at the Han Center at Pomona College or, at an auditorium. It's another to like meet at a site and just be like, all right, how do I accomplish? Like, show me what to put in, show me what not to put in, and like, let's do it right now. And then I could take that home, and figure out how to do that. And so, once this public health crisis is behind us, one of the things that we're really looking at ramping up is that in person, either like, and having options for it, like one-on-one tree planting lessons, one-on-one composting lessons, small group environments where we could do that.
Yeah.
And so that's like an exciting thing that I'm looking forward to in 2021.
Very cool.
All right, cool. I'm going to keep going.
Real quick, it looks like we have a question about programs, but I know that's coming up next. Who provides follow-up care for newly planted trees?
Good question. So the trees are one of those things where it sounds so easy. You plant a tree, but like the steps that go into that can be really complicated. So there are different rules for the trees that we plant based upon the pot of money that paid for the trees and where they're planted. General rule of thumb is that if we planted the trees with our grant funding, we're on the hook to make sure that they're established for 3 years.
Okay. And
then after that, if it's on city property, then it's the city tree to care for and maintain.
Yeah.
When we plant in people's front yards or easements that they're responsible for, then the same thing. The homeowner is responsible for caring for it, and we have a lot of different ways of working with the homeowner to provide the education and make sure that tree survives. We have a bot for the cell phone that tells them when they ought to water their tree that they could opt into. And we have to do Nicole and her youth arbor apprenticeship interns will go back and look at all the places that we had planted our trees to make sure they're doing well. And if they're not, we'll go up to the people's homes and try to have a conversation with them. We might water them ourselves, just taking like gallon containers of water and trying to make sure that they survive. We're on the hook to replace any tree from our grant for 3 years. So if we plant, 1,000 trees and 20 of them die, then we have to replace them with our own funds. So it's in our interest to make sure that they survive. Now we have in the past had tree planting programs and events where we were holding the event for trees that were planted with the city's grant funding. This is where it gets probably too much information. But in that case, we're not responsible for, we want to keep those trees alive, but it becomes the city's responsibility to make sure that those trees, take root and have enough water and, thrive.
Sure.
So does that?
Oh, absolutely. And not to go too far on and if you have a better spot where we can talk about this in your presentation, let me know. You mentioned the types of trees. What types of trees are you planting? And I guess to whittle that down a little as well. Is there like if a homeowner, for example, wants to plant a tree, is there kind of a list that they go off of, or is it any tree?
Yeah, good. Okay, so the city has a city street tree list. So all of our trees that we plant is based upon the street that the trees are being planted on,
Okay.
and the corresponding trees that are allowed to be planted on that street. And so the
Okay.
city came up with this list. I think it was maybe last updated. I would be guessing. But it has a number of trees that kind of fit the neighborhood, that are good trees for residential units, right? You don't want like, a giant tree for, a small home with a small yard. So we try to be cognizant of that. If the street tree list has, 5 or 6 or 7 different trees on it, when we do our plantings, we will work with the homeowner if they have like a preference. So we'll tell them, look, we're slated to plant a Chinese elm in your front yard. If they like really don't like that, then they could contact us and say they don't want it, and we can say, okay, well, these are the other options, and we'll work with them to find one that they want, because we want community buy-in, right? We want people to take these trees and take care of them and love them and water them, and this is like it's community building, it's place building, and so you plant 100 trees on a street and it transforms the street for a generation. So we want to make sure that it fits with the community and it is what they want. If somebody wants a city tree planted on their yard, then they would contact community services at the city of Claremont. And so Carrie Dillman is the person in charge of city trees. And so you would contact her, and they have a list, and they have like a planting cycle that they go off of. I'm not sure what the wait time is on that. A lot of our grants for tree planting have closed, unfortunately, and there's not as much money coming in for urban forestry, unfortunately. But we're always trying to plant trees if we can.
Yeah, very cool. Again, this might be better for the program side, but something I thought of too, is there anything... no easy way to say it, or without beating around the bush, pun intended. What's in it for is there anything in it for the homeowner besides planting a tree? For example, I think it was I think the water district had, I don't know if they still do, like a water tolerant grass replacement type program. Is there anything like that that's like making your yard more water efficient, or planting a tree, doing something that would really get them involved in your organization for that reason?
I think the short answer is no. So are you talking about sort of like a financial incentive for planting the tree?
Not necessarily, but besides just, gosh, I just want to get into the trees, or maybe like you said, maybe it would be a way of them starting their own kind of garden or growing their own fruit or something like that. Is there any other, obviously the financial comes up, but is there anything, city incentive or anything like that that would get them involved, or that could get them involved?
Yeah, so like the sort of benefits of planting trees are many. So this is one of the things that we have one part of our program, our Green Crew program, is called Walk the Town. And so when we plant in a neighborhood, we go door to door, and we knock on the door, and then like 99% of the time nobody answers because we're like a stranger knocking on their door. But we'll leave like a thing and call them. We'll come back and try to talk to them in person, and we go over like what is in it for you, right? People want to plant a tree. Sorry, I think I missed the gist of your question the first time around. So,
no worries.
Yeah. So anyway, there are a lot of benefits of trees. So like there's the obvious ones that like us environmentalists care about, or provides habitat for native wildlife, right? It sequesters CO2. It in certain instances, it can help retain groundwater and help deal with groundwater runoff. And so there are a lot of like really important things that trees do.
Right.
But also, so say you're like, you could care less about the environment and like you just want to get down to like, what's in it for me?
Sure.
Which people do, right? So one thing is that there have been studies shown that tree-lined streets increase the value of households. That's one. Going out and touching trees and being in nature reduces stress. The shade provided by trees, if planted in the right place, can reduce one's electricity bill. You don't have to worry so much about AC during the summer months, during the warmer months. And the list goes on. It slows traffic in high traffic areas when you have tree canopy covering the road.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of like other benefits. None of them are like hard financial things. So I know there's like the turf replacement program where they'll reimburse you like X amount of dollars per square foot of water-wise landscaping.
Yeah.
So there's not that, but there are the more like soft benefits of like plant this tree in this location and you will see savings down the road.
Sure.
Not to talk about another organization too much, but there are organizations out there that do urban forestry stuff like this, plant trees in people's yards. And the way that they determine where to plant it is they have like a little GIS tracker and they plan it to get the greatest electricity savings for that household based upon the species of the tree. And so the program's funded by the electricity utility, right? Obviously. So like they're worried about, over demand and power. And so that's one of the things they do. And so that's all about the finances of it. And so like we can do that same thing, but we're coming at it from the CO2 angle. Yeah. But those crossover, those like Venn diagram things line up.
Sure. Very cool. Okay, and looks like I've got everyone's questions. Thanks, keep them coming. But I'm pretty sure some of these questions will be answered coming up.
Okay, let me go through. I'm going to go through this one a little bit quickly because I think this is like a good question slide.
Yeah.
So our program. So we have a lot of programs as you can see on like this list. The makeup of Sustainable Claremont is it's sort of like a non-traditional nonprofit. So if you're new to Claremont or you're new to Sustainable Claremont, just some background on the organization. We came out of the city sustainability plan in 2008, 2009, which called for like a community sustainability group that would work with the city, would work with business to promote sustainability in Claremont. That turned into a 501c3 nonprofit organization. 6 years after that, they hired their first employee, but it started as an all volunteer organization. And we still have like a lot of like the holdover from that. Right. And I'm the second executive director, and this will be the third year that we have an executive director. So like we're new and we're small, and we really like lean heavily into our volunteers and our board and like, just people in the community who help us out. And so that's like a tangent, but it's important to the programs.
Sure.
Yeah. So I talked a little bit about the community composting program. It's one I'm really excited about, one we're really looking to kind of blow up this year and in the years coming. Soil and compost is such like an important part of mitigating the effects of climate moving forward, and it could be a real carbon sink. So it's like tree planting. It's another thing that we could do locally, individually, but that has a like real like measurable impact. So really cool program. Demystifying sustainability. These are the blurbs that we have, the articles that we have in the Claremont Courier. They're written primarily by Sue Shank, who runs our garden club, and by Freeman Allen, one of the founders of Sustainable Claremont, who just hopped off our board, but we still hear from all the time, like a living legend of sustainability in Claremont. Garden club, as I mentioned, run by Sue. They, in like normal times, they meet monthly, and she does a really good job in like planning out the year and having different topics that they touch on related to home gardening, and it's kind of broader than that. So they'll talk about trees, or they'll talk about bees, or like, they'll have a speaker come. We have our Green Crew tree planting program, just spoke about a little bit before, but our Green Crew is really, it's probably about 3.5 years old now. It started, the origin story of it are kind of cool. The city was looking for a way to get more trees in the ground, but also find a way to involve the community in that process. And so the first tree planting was a collaboration between Sustainable Claremont staff and members, residences just in the community, and the city. And the intention wasn't to create this like long running program. It was to kind of see how things would go. And it was like a amazing hit. Like the community members were like blown away. It was this great way for the community and city staff and council to all kind of interact in like a positive environment, right? You go to like a city council meeting and it's not always the most positive environment between community members and council, right? They could be tense and there's a lot of things to battle over. But this is one of those times where it's like just for instance, this wasn't in the beginning, but when I started here at Sustainable Claremont, one of the first big plantings that I had was Arbor Day in 2019. It was awesome. We had a lot of members of the community. We had like this little like education fair going. We had State Senator Portantino come and all of the council was there. And I'll just remember we planted 100 trees along baseline. So it was like it was our largest tree planting event. 100 trees in about 3 hours.
Wow.
With like 110 volunteers. Like we have this crazy problem where we have to like turn around volunteers. Which is like not to have, but like people want to do this. But we had Councilmember Reese and then Mayor Kaleke planting a tree on somebody's property, and they went to the door, and I think it was the mayor who was telling me this after the fact, and just how funny it is. Like there aren't many cities where you look out your window and you see a mayor and a council member planting a tree.
That's true.
So it's awesome, like for council and for the residents and just everyone to have like this positive shared goal of improving the community building.
Definitely.
So sorry, that's our green tree planting. I'll try to go quickly.
No problem.
RVMA, we worked with a clinic group last year, which was a collaboration between us and the university to study air pollution at schools. We worked with our team of student researchers to do a lot of background information on air pollution. We bought these really amazing monitors, or I should say RVMA bought these really amazing monitors, really expensive monitors. And we were just about to deploy them. Had just gotten approval from the school board and the schools to put them on school property right before COVID hit.
Jeez.
So we're waiting for that to resume, but that's another kind of interesting, important program that we have looking forward. We have a land use and development. A lot of people probably familiar with the South project, and we've been doing a lot of advocacy on that. Our resource center, which I've talked about. We have a school action group. This is really like a board-driven part of our organization. In the past, we had an amazing board member, Peggy Kelly, who headed it and worked with the schools to help put in school gardens and help with curriculum and things like that. In 2020, sorry, time is so crazy these days. I believe it was in like September of 2020, just like 6 months ago, we planted a couple trees at Chaparral for their new garden area. So we're always trying to like keep in mind, ways that we can work with the local schools and Claremont Unified School District. Angela and I will be presenting at one of the school's clubs in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So that's one of the things that we do with School Action Group. We have a water action group where we do advocacy locally, but also regionally. So we've been spending a lot of time doing partnering with other environmental organizations to do advocacy for water projects that are not so local, but that are, regional. They're Southern California related, but have large implications for what we're interested in as an organization.
Sure.
last two here. Sorry, this lists are less fun than dialogue. The Youth Arbor Apprenticeship Program. This is part of our Green Crew program. One of our grants was to start a program that there was a question on the last slide about who's responsible for the trees.
Right.
And one of the challenges with our program, that some of the feedback that we heard from primarily, we plant these trees, like who's going to take care of them, who's going to maintain them, and we're always on the hook for the first 3 years, and once they're good to go, they're usually pretty good to go. But down the road, somebody's going to have to trim those trees. Somebody's going to have to maintain those trees.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started this Youth Arborist Apprenticeship Program where the idea was to have, we would have paid interns, paid apprentices who would shadow arborists to learn how to do the maintenance side and try to create like a group of, instead of tree planters, arborist apprentices who could do some of the easy tree maintenance activities. Unfortunately, again, that's been one of the things that's been put on hold because of COVID.
Right.
We can't have, youth shadowing, arborists in the field.
Yeah.
But it's one of the things that, again, we're working with our grant manager to figure out if there's some way we can delay that or kind of shift it moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And then our odds and ends, we always have just a lot of random stuff going. Because we're so small and kind of nimble, when things come up, we try to seize on them. So we every year or so we try to do a volunteer day at the Bernard Field Station, which, if you're not familiar, is just adjacent to the Botanic Gardens. We do volunteer days at Amy's Farm, which is out in Ontario. We led the National Cleanup Day in Claremont last year, where we got a group of Boy Scouts and their families to go clean up a park. And just partnerships with the University of Laverne with their business program to help sell sustainable projects. So just when these things come up, they might not fit directly into one of our programs, but if it seems like something we ought to spend some time on and could have a real impact in the community, we do try to seize on that.
Sure. Yeah. There was a question also, if you want to spend a little more time. I think did a thorough job, obviously, but there was a question specifically about programs with area school children. If you want to spend a little more time on that. Otherwise, there are, I think, a couple of programs that you have that would fit.
Yes. Okay, sure. So for local school children, there are a couple of things that we do. So one was the school action group that would work with the schools to do school gardens, composting, things like that. This year, one of the things that we're looking forward to is doing a more hands-on Arbor Day with school children. So I don't want to say what we're going to do because if it doesn't happen, then I'll have said something that doesn't happen.
Sure.
But we're looking at trying to find a way to work with the students from remotely to provide them with the means to plant trees at home or get other trees going. So that's something that's in the works. Our Harvey Mudd air pollution project, that one had a really heavy integration with local school kids. So when we started working with Harvey Mudd and this team of 5 Harvey Mudd students, super talented and really did a great job leading the program. We met with representatives from the schools, with principals, and with members of the school board. And of course, what they wanted was us to find a way to integrate our research with their students. And so the plan was to have students help with reading the air pollution monitors. So because the Claremont Unified had a problem with a hacker and internet security last year, they weren't able to hook up any of our air pollution monitors to the internet. And so we were going to have people go every day and download the data and help interpret it. Okay. And so that was one of the things where we were really looking forward to working with students to every day go download the information and then send it our way and work with them to talk about like what air pollution is, what the effects of it are, why it's particularly troubling for youth who have developing lungs or are lower to the ground, closer to the exhaust pipes when they're walking to school. And so it's not something that we always have like easy access to, but it's always something that we're keeping in mind. Okay, how can we work with CUSD on this? Like, what are ways that we can get students involved?
Sure.
And a lot of our tree planters, a lot of our professional tree planters are students from CUSD. So
Wow.
a lot of participation from the schools.
Very cool. And let's see. Yeah, I think
Good.
I think we're good. I have everyone's questions, but I know some of this is going to be coming up, so
Okay.
I think it's good.
All right. So I thought that instead of, I've already done this, I've already said like because of COVID, but because of COVID, I thought it was worth just taking a second to, we talked about the things that we were able to accomplish, but I think it's worth, we're all being affected by this. And so I think it's worth me spending some time on how we were affected by this and how hopefully, we've been able to pivot, and I feel like we're in a really good place, but like it's substantially changed how our organization operates and where our focus lies.
Yeah. So
just for like a little context, our biggest fundraiser throughout the year is Earth Day. To a lesser extent, it's Arbor Day, but Earth Day. If you've not been to the event, in 2019, we closed down 2nd Street in downtown. We had 2 blocks, and we had 78 vendor spaces filled. We estimate like 5,000 to 6,000 people.
Wow.
Really great. We had like entertainment, like it was just like a super fun event and like a good fundraiser for us. We were able to get sponsors, we were able to get, fees from exhibitors, and like
sure.
we are a professional organization with professional staff who, have a mortgage to pay or bills to pay or whatever. And so it's important that we have these things.
Definitely.
Canceled. So that was one of the things I remember sitting in the community services department, and we were like, maybe like early February, we were like, we're not going to have to cancel this, right? Because of COVID. That's not gonna. And then like, early March, we have to cancel, right?
Yeah.
So, it's just not going to happen. And so canceling Earth Day, last year at this time, we were just starting to plan a new program and our inaugural Green Home Tour. Which we're going to do this year. So the idea was to have 5 different homes in Claremont where you can go tour the home, meet with the homeowner, and these homes are selected specifically because they have elements of like home sustainability upgrades. And so I find myself in the position, this sort of goes back to like the easy on-ramp for sustainability. I find myself in the position where like there are things that I want to do, but like I don't know where to get started and I don't know how to get started, so I just don't do them. And so the idea of the Green Home Tour was to be like, all right, I want to get solar, and like you gave me this list, this resource guide of solar, vendors in the area, but like I'm still like hesitant to do it, so nothing happens. And so we thought it'd be cool to have a Green Home Tour where you can go to someone's house and be like, hey, like, who'd you use? Like, what would you have done differently? Like, hey, I think you also have like the Tesla wall. Like, is that worth it? Should I do that?
Right.
Or like, you have this, Waterwise landscaping. Who'd you use? Would you use them again? Like, what wouldn't you do?
Right.
And just to have that like interactive conversation.
Yeah.
And to be inspired by what other people are doing. Like some of the homes we have on our list, they've done like a really amazing thing. It's like installing heat pumps, like really kind of cutting edge stuff.
Sure.
And saying like, I went to this home and it was amazing, and like probably can't do everything, but maybe I could do this one thing. They said it was really easy, and they gave me the guy's card, and just sort of setting people up to empower themselves to take that next step. And that was slated again to be like another major new fundraiser.
Right.
And it was slated for May, and so obviously that didn't happen. But we're going to have it this year. We got a grant, fortunately, from Edison to put it on, so we have to have it this year, which is a good thing to have. So now we're trying to figure out when that'll be and whether we're going to wait until late summer, so that hopefully people can come in person. If we're going to have to do like a virtual version, like the Claremont Heritage, I know they do their great home tours, and they did a virtual one, and it was really good. They did a really good job on it. So I think that's something that that is something we're exploring.
Cool.
Some other small changes, and I'll just kind of go through these quickly, is our tree planting events. The coolest thing about our tree planting events were that there were events, and we would get community members. So that whole like community engagement thing I was talking about. So that's completely gone away. And so like in the last 2-3 months, we've planted 128 trees. And by we, I mean like that long list of staff members on slide 2 or 3. So we're all, we're trying to steal a board member here and there. But we have grant deadlines, and we've got to get the trees in the ground. And it's just been one of those things, one of the changes that's been made. And, the word tree huggers, we love to go out there and plant trees, but like we miss like the community interaction. And so we're really looking forward to hopefully having those events again, crank up maybe next fall.
Yeah.
The other ones, I'm going to skip over the next two because they're kind of speak for themselves. The other major impact of COVID is the loss of funding from the city, the contract with the city, and their community-based organization grants that they gave. So Sustainable Claremont had a contract with the city for a number of years, and that's what allowed us to put on things like our Earth Day events. It paid for, in part, community outreach, things like the dialogues. And so with the financial situation that the city was in, it cut all contracts with CBOs, including the CBO grants, which, if you're not familiar with those, they're small grants that went out to, I think they did like 19 organizations in their last funding cycle. And that's what paid for a large part of our Youth Arbor apprenticeship program.
Yeah.
And so things like that we're able to, pay people to do these types of jobs who can't otherwise take the time to do that. So, a big focus of ours is to provide opportunities for people, that environmental justice component, who may not be able to spend, 20 hours a month working for free, right? Volunteer time, but like want to get involved, want to learn how to meet arborists, and that might be like a field that they want to get into, and throwing them, some money, a paid internship, that dries up when those community-based funds go away. So it's something that we've been, it was a blow to us, but something that I think we've been successful in trying to shift gears and pivot. But that was like on top of COVID, on top of the city budget, like all these things sort of happening at once. But in a strange way, I feel like looking forward, we might be in a better position than we've ever been.
Sure.
It sort of forced us to make some really hard decisions, and forced us to focus our efforts. So we're trying to kind of focus on the silver lining and really like what are the impacts that we can and need to make with the resources we have.
Definitely. General question. I want to make sure, I know this will come up later, but I want to make sure that we touch on it a couple of times. What can we do to help you fundraise? What can we do to help you fundraise?
Yeah, that's my last slide, but let me say it right now anyway.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things, and like they range from. Can I just go to the slide?
If you want, yeah.
Is that okay?
But we're going to hit the slide again. So, everybody, we're going to hit it again. I just want to make sure we go over it a couple of times.
Yeah, multiple times. We've got more hours, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't realize what time it was. But if you need me to get moving along.
No, please.
So this is what you can do. Like, if you want to help, if you want to support Sustainable Claremont and our programs and the community, right? So like what do is make a better community through our efforts. We're trying to bring grant funds to Claremont to improve our urban forests. We're trying to do community composting, to give us better soil, to give us better greenery, to make it a better place to live. So if you support those things, which I think we all do, there's some really easy things, and there are like more in-depth things. So one is like sign up for a newsletter. Like, it's such a small little task. But when we go to sponsors, and even when we go to grant makers, one of the things that we have to list is how large is our network,
right?
And that helps us secure funding down the road. So like please open the emails and read them. But if you just subscribe to them and delete them, that's okay too. So sign up, and just that way we have like a microphone to you. And, maybe 9 times out of 10, it's not things you're interested in, but then there's that one where it's like, oh, I actually, really want to listen to a dialogue on a bike share program, or, whatever. So we're trying to appeal to different interests.
Sure.
Same with social. Like if you can like or share or support us on Facebook and Instagram, again, it just gives us that other line of communication. And again, those numbers matter to grant makers and funders and sponsors when we go to them. And
Right.
so we have like a decent following, which is really great. But those are like the low, like, I kind of want to help Sustainable Claremont.
Right.
I don't want to do too much. The other one is like, come help us out and come check out what we're doing. So when we have dialogues, like, sit in on them and see if it's something that's appealing to you. Like, I'm always surprised by how interesting these dialogues are. Like we have a little dialogue committee, and we meet and we come up with a list. I'm like, this might be good, this might not. Like you never quite know.
Right.
But they're always super interesting, and I always learn something. And it's they're really fun when we have them in person because people stick around after and catch up with one another.
Sure.
But even on Zoom, like I feel like it's we're kind of hitting our stride on the online version.
Mm-hmm.
Same with our other online programs until we're able to get back into in person. So last year, because we had to cancel Earth Day, we pivoted to this new program we called Earth Action Week. And the idea was to have a week around Earth Day where we give people something to do each day. And we say, one day might be plant a tree. Day 2 might be go check out what your thermostat is and make sure it's set so that, it's most efficient. It's still comfortable, but efficient.
Sure.
And last year, the idea was to have everything be behavior change. So it's not like go buy a Tesla, go put solar on your roof. It's
Right.
like things that you could do in your house with small changes in behavior, but have like a real environmental impact that we can measure. And
Definitely.
so we did that. We had 631 pledges last year during our Earth Action Week, and we saved something like 250,000 gallons of water through the pledges. And at the amount of CO2 emitted, I think it was around 800,000 pounds, which is in the previous slide. My numbers might be off there.
Sure.
But it was a huge hit, and that happened because we had to pivot really quickly. This year, we're hoping to kind of have it more thought through and have much more impactful stuff. But take part in that. Like if you could take part in Earth Action Week, that'd be awesome. Same with the Green Home Tour. When that gets started, just volunteering your time. So if you could come attend the Green Home Tour, if you want to help be a docent on one of the houses, and you can learn about the house and tell other attendees about the houses.
Mm-hmm.
When we get back to our in-person events, come plant trees with us, come to our compost site and help us turn the compost pile. And again, another thing that doesn't sound fun theoretically, but is fun in person.
Sure.
And then the next level, like level 3, is check out our programs. We've got a new cool program. It's a plant a tree program, and you donate X amount of dollars and we'll plant a tree for you. And there's the cost of the tree, obviously, but then there's some baked in there that helps support the organization. So we established a really cool partnership with the YWCA in San Gabriel Valley, and we're planting 5 trees at a women's shelter there.
Okay.
And so it's taking the shelter where, it's just this bare bones front and backyard and trying to make it into something like that really has some like aesthetic appeal and gives some comfort to the people who are in the shelter.
Right.
So it's a really cool program. Our Resilient Home program, another new program we're going to be launching in the next few weeks, hopefully, where we're going to go to people's homes, and with a small donation, we'll put a raised bed garden in for you, or plant fruit trees, or put in a compost for you. And again, it's one of those things where like, maybe you're like, I want to start gardening. I don't really know what to do. Like, do I need a raised bed?
Yeah.
And contact us and we'll be like, hey, we'll put it in for you. We'll put the soil in, and do you need seeds? And like, from like A to Z, have you covered, and be the resource if you need to pick up the phone and be like, my carrots aren't growing.
Right.
Like, what am I doing wrong? Like, just having that network for people to lean into.
Yeah.
And the last one is donate. Like, we had our biggest year-end fundraiser that we've ever had this year, just in December, where we almost matched our fundraising from 2018 and 2019 combined.
Wow.
In 2020.
Wow.
And so it's super amazing. And like it really goes to show that like the community is there for us and they're bought into this, and like we're all sort of in it together. And
Sure.
and I'd be willing to bet that we have, of all the CVOs in the area, that we have more like $8 or $10 donors than anyone else. We have a lot of low level donors, which is awesome, because like we get people from like the colleges or like the high school, like who want to support, but they don't have much to give. And like anything helps. And like, it's one of those things where it all adds up. Just like the actions that we take for environmentalism.
Sure.
So direct support financially, and then just like feedback. Like if there are things like that are happening that, maybe you don't think we have our eye on, or it's like an environmental concern of yours that you don't think that we are doing enough about, like let us know. Like we're constrained by staff and bandwidth and time and money and all those things, but maybe it's something that we put on the back burner, and then the grant funding comes up and we're able to jump on it, right? Because it was something we weren't focused on, and that it was brought to our attention.
Sure.
That's something that happened with the air pollution thing. We had an individual in Claremont contacted me. She's really concerned with the air pollution. We met with her, super thoughtful, super compelling, and then we just didn't know what to do with it. And so sat there for like a couple months and like, banging around ideas in my head about like how we can move forward on it. And then I got a call from Harvey Mudd that they want to do a clinic project. I was like, there it is. Like we can match students with air pollution. So a lot of times like there's no like direct, like, okay, next month we'll start doing this to address your concerns. But like we're serious about it, and we want to know what you're concerned about, and if it's something we can address down the line.
Sure.
That's great.
Yeah, definitely. So this kind of one of the things that you mentioned here, the plant a tree. A question here is, does Sustainable Claremont offer donors anything in exchange for donations, like tree dedication or name recognition, something like that? Can you plant a tree in honor of somebody or something like that?
Yes, good. So that's something I should have said in my pitch to the thing. Yeah, so like we just got this program rolling 6 or 8 weeks before the end of the new year. So one of the things that when you plant a tree, when you donate and we plant a tree for you, we send you like an instant PDF certificate, and we could make the certificate out any way you'd like. And so we had a number of people plant in someone's honor. We've had memorial trees. Because of the location of where we plant the trees, we're unfortunately not able to do like any identifiers on the tree on site. But we do our best to tell the donor where it's being planted, the species of the tree, and then give them recognition. And we're looking at our to list the adopted trees in our annual report at the end of the year.
Very cool. Let's see. Would you consider doing any partnership events with David and Margaret's Youth Services or Haynes Family of Programs?
Yes, I would. So I've been diligently emailing people to find places to plant trees, and those have both been emailed, but I've not yet heard back. So whoever asked that question.
Okay, Alex. Alex, it's on you.
Yes. Stuart, Stuart at sustainableclaremont.org. I would love to get in contact with anybody who knows anybody, because we're for our plant a tree program. There are a lot of hurdles of planting a city tree.
Right.
And a lot of the plant a tree program trees, are like one-offs. And so we'll go plant a tree this weekend or 2 trees next week. And so it's better to have places like private property or institutions where we can go and have a contact there and say, hey, just FYI, next Friday we're going to come plant a tree, and have like the 5 spots where they want trees planted and then pre-approved where we could go and quickly do it.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at places locally that need trees and that we think would benefit from them, whether it's a school, where more canopy is needed, or David and Margaret or Haynes Family, House of Ruth, anything like that, we'd be happy to partner. Please.
Okay. Yeah. And actually, kind of something that I thought of. I live nearby one of the I forget what they're called, but it's like the water district, it's an open field area, and there's literally nothing in it. Could you do something like, I think there's a few tall bushes. I don't know that I would call anything like tree. It's literally like a vacant lot. Is that something like, is it like that for a reason? Can you not plant there?
That's a good question. I don't know, but we could follow up on that.
Yeah.
So let's follow up on that, because again, let's fill all the spots we can with trees that are good spots for trees. And
definitely.
So if things like that come up, I'm happy to follow up on that. So yeah, let's connect after this.
Sure. Sounds good. I think we are caught up mostly. I think we're caught up to the questions there. If you want to go back to the slide that we came from.
Yeah, so this is just, and we've kind of gotten to this. Sorry, I feel like my presentation's going long.
No, you're doing great. We appreciate you taking the time. This is great stuff. And the other thing, I'm just sitting here thinking, for example, I'm a marketing kind of guy, so I'm just sitting here like, people want to get out of their houses. What a great opportunity. Like when the time comes, you want your kids out of the house, you want yourself out of the house. What are we going to do for an afternoon? I need a morning or an afternoon, and I'm seeing it.
Yeah. And at our tree planting events, it's families.
Right.
Like, so much families, and they get out there and they plant together for 3 hours, and it's just there aren't a lot of opportunities like that. And then you have the rest of your day, and you planted 5 trees with your family and kids. And so, yeah, exactly.
Cool.
So this is just what we're looking at moving forward. And when I think about our programs, I try to think about it in a couple different ways. One is I want us to be focusing on things that, are, easy on-ramps for action, but that have, a real impact, and one that we can measure as best as possible. So most of the things that we do hit those Venn diagram circles line up, but not all of them. Another way I think of it is just locality. And so there are certain things that are very Claremont focused, right? We're sustainable Claremont. But in our mission, like I said in the beginning, we're a sustainable Claremont. We do these things in Claremont and beyond. And so a lot more of what we're doing is falling into that and beyond portion of programming. So this is just in 2021, some of the things that we're looking at doing, the Green Home Tour, which I talked about, Earth Action Week is coming back. We're looking at having Drive Electric Week in September. It's like a national event where they bring a bunch of electric cars, and residents and community members can come test drive the electric cars. And it's kind of like a cool mini Earth Day type event.
Yeah.
So those are kind of the big Claremont focused events that we're looking at for 2021. Locally, so out of Claremont, more into adjacent cities in and around Claremont. We have a grant partnership right now with Rancho Cucamonga and Pomona. So we're the trees that we're planting, that staff is planting and that we're planting tomorrow morning and Saturday morning in the rain, hopefully not too rainy.
Yeah.
Are in Rancho Cucamonga and Pomona. And for your audience, the reason that we do that is that it's necessary. The places that we're planting are in disadvantaged communities that lack tree coverage. They lack tree canopy, and there's a whole range of environmental justice issues there. So the urban heat island effect, is far greater for disadvantaged communities, and it leads to all sorts of things, from health problems to higher bills for cooling in one's home. And so one, it's the right thing to do. Two, that's where all the grant funding is now. So basically any grant that we can get through the state of California, which provides urban forestry grant money, requires that we plant a large portion of the trees in disadvantaged communities. And disadvantaged communities is not just a term, it's a well-defined term based on a tool that the state has called Cal EnviroScreen. And so we have to like pinpoint where we're going to plant our trees and plug it into this online tool to make sure that they're eligible for planting.
Okay.
So that's just a little background. A lot of people ask like why we plant where we plant, and that's like a large part of why we plant where we plant. Our plant a tree partnerships, that plant a tree program where one donates and we plant a tree for you. So that's not grant based, that's individual donor based. We have partnerships in Covina, as I said, and in Upland. Always looking for more sites. So a compost program. So that's one, again, that right now it's very Claremont based, but we've been looking at maybe doing sites in like Laverne or sites, more locally. It's like a neighborhood program more than like a city program in a lot of ways. So like if you could like pull in like 10 neighbors to do a community composting program, then we can start the program. And so it doesn't really rely on like, those city boundaries.
Right.
And then we're looking at working with a number of cities on helping them with their LEED cities and communities certification. That one's kind of new, so I'm not going to speak to that too much, but there's this cool program called LEED Cities and Communities. And just like there's LEED for like a building, like you have like a LEED platinum building, you have a LEED silver city. And so it's a third party verified, and you get like an index score. So if Claremont were to go through that process, you could say, oh, cool, like Claremont's LEED silver and Barcelona is LEED bronze. Like, we're doing better than Barcelona. So it gives you like this comparison tool for international cities.
Yeah.
So that's a cool program, and one that we're looking to see how we can get involved, not just with seeing how we could have it done in Claremont, but again, communities in the area. And then regionally, we have, we're part of the California Relief, that's not spelled incorrectly, Relief Network, which is the urban forestry network. And so we're one of like 90 some odd urban forestry groups. And so we meet with them annually at they have like a retreat, and they're who we get a lot of our funding through. And so we do like statewide advocacy for urban forestry, trying to get, California government to invest more heavily in urban forestry. So that's one of the regional things we do. We sign on to a lot of more local, but still regional advocacy letters in partnership with Active SGV. Active SGV is this great organization, San Gabriel Valley, of course, but they do a lot of like active transportation type stuff. So like rolling out the e-bike share program, a lot of programs. But so they do letters of support for new programs in Southern California, and so we sign on to a lot of those letters with them to try to do advocacy, to do get more dollars for sustainability. And the NPCA, the National Park Conservation Association, we're working with them and the Sierra Club to do some.
Alex, hopefully everything is good on the stream. I think we're good.
Yeah, it looks like it's thinking a little bit, but
is
it
it?
Might come back. Yeah, it's spinning a little bit.
I think we're back. Okay, little break. Sorry about that. So Alex is very excited about learning more about composting. Yeah. Sorry, Alex. Video did freeze. We're back. And then another question was with, I think it's City Hall closed. Do we contact Nicole directly with regard to the tentative planting or community events? Do we pay attention to the city? Do we link up with you? Do we do both?
Okay, this is a great question, and great to hear that Alex is going to join our compost program. We're going to hold you to that, Alex. So first thing is, like, anybody watching, if you're interested in the compost program or any of these other programs, you could always go to our website, sustainableclaremont.org, or email me, Stuart@sustainableclaremont.org. And we'd be happy to work with you or contact you and make sure that we're answering your questions. For community-based events, so this is like the weird thing with Sustainable Claremont in the city. Sustainable Claremont is not part of the city of Claremont.
Right.
We're a separate nonprofit organization, and right now there's zero contract or MOU between Sustainable Claremont and the city of Claremont. So we have a lot of shared goals. We, in the past, have partnered on a lot of things. And so if it's a community event that the city is putting on, or a program that the city is doing, or if you want like a city tree, you would contact the city. And probably for most of those, you'd probably contact Human Services or Community Services.
Right.
If it's tree specific, it'd be Carrie Dillman. And we could track down her information if somebody has a question about, getting a tree for their yard, a city tree for their yard, then it would be through Carrie. If it's for a Sustainable Claremont event, like a tree planting event in Pomona or Rancho, or if we are able to do them again in Claremont in the future, then you would contact us and we would handle all the outreach and all the back end logistics for it.
Sure.
Did I get to the question?
Yeah, I think so. I think also definitely stay tuned on social media, which you can do right now. You can just open another tab and do that. Follow us all on social media. Because I think the other thing that you have implied, and I think everybody is understanding, but just to expressly say it also, even if things kind of open up more quickly, let's say in San Bernardino County, then those events are going to be taking place. Us being here in Claremont or even Pomona, we can go to those. So even if it's not in your town, it's 6 miles away.
Yes, and we've got like super planters who come to every single planting event, and they're awesome. And then we've got people who come to one, and it's their thing, and they just never do it again, or we're all over the map. But our events are always open to everybody. 9 times out of 10, 99 out of 100, they're free events for the community. So all of our events will be listed on our website. They'll be listed on social. We're pretty good about getting things on Instagram. We're really good about getting them on Facebook.
Sure.
And then depending on the event, we also use Eventbrite if that's something that anyone in your network uses to find events. But it's just, we get less engagement from Eventbrite and Twitter and Instagram. So really we focus on Facebook, for better or worse.
Sure.
But yeah, always our website if you've got a question about what's going on, or just contact us and we can answer your questions.
Right, definitely. And real quick, just to dispel that myth. Good, John. It looks like we answered your question. So good. Thank you for the question, John. But yeah, I was surprised. It was 2 4th of Julys ago. I was surprised at how many people came up and asked us, or rather I stopped them, mentioned, hey, we're with Active Claremont. Are you interested? And, here's what we do. And how many people said, I don't live in Claremont. And it's like, that's okay. It's okay.
Right. Yeah. Just because Claremont's in our name, you could still take part.
Yeah.
I always joke that I live in Laverne. And
right.
A deafening silence falls over the audience. But yeah, we're a community, and
right.
The community extends beyond the borders, and we all have a shared interest, whether we're commuting to Claremont for our jobs or whether we like to go to the Lemley on the weekends or whatever it is. So yeah, good point.
Definitely, very good. All right, yeah. So no questions on this slide.
Okay, this is easy. This is just a picture. So the big one is our, you can see Nicole in there, and then those are our youth arborist apprentices. So when that program was active, when we're here planting at a park in Pomona. And so it's just super cool to see they're all, either from a disadvantaged community or they're youth from local colleges and wanting to get involved and taking action and really making a difference. The upper right on your screen, that's just us that was our team 2 years ago at Earth Day. And then for whatever reason, I just threw in a dialogue with Assembly Member Holden, which, you can't go wrong with putting a picture of Assembly Member in your presentation.
There you go. That's true.
That's the type of thing that we, I feel like this kind of captures a lot of what we do. It's the tree planting, these large scale events, and then these public dialogues. And so those are kind of the core of what we're all about.
Sure. Great.
And then I don't think I have anything else. How to get involved. We talked about that, and then thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, let's go back one slide. We'll leave that up. If you have any other questions, definitely let us know now so that they come in. Lot of different. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you still see my screen? Okay.
We can still. Yeah. So yeah, the signing up for your newsletter, liking on Facebook and Instagram, that's something that everyone can do right now. So definitely a great way to stay informed, because I imagine things are going to transition. We'll be open and then we won't be able to open. And no, wait, we're open again. It'll be good. So there's going to be a lot of that. So we're going to want to make sure that you're up to date as those things happen, I imagine. And then also, Alex, I didn't miss this, but if I ask this question, then you definitely have to get involved in the composting. But very serious question, Stuart. What is your favorite tree?
Oh man. Putting on the spot like that.
Sorry, like I said, Alex has to get involved in composting.
It's no longer allowed at our composting program.
Too much controversy. Can't pick a favorite.
All right. I'll pick a tree. I'll go on the record here. I think I have to go just a coast live oak. Like, how do you beat coast live oak? They're so grand and amazing, and they're, the sprawling. And we've got this is a boring tangent that Alex probably doesn't want to hear about. But I do this thing where I rate trees when we're driving in the car with my wife.
Okay.
I love that.
Yeah.
And coast live oak, they're always like a 9 or a 10. And you can't beat them. I feel like it's a great tree.
It's funny you say that, because when my wife and I, we were thinking about buying a house, one that we currently live in now, one of the things that kind of drew us to the property was we have 5 live oak trees. We have 5 of them on our property, and 2 of them are really large. They hadn't been cut in a really long time. They were at the point where they were kind of starting to go back over and almost touch the ground. And so we had someone come out, and it was very expensive, but it was so worth it, because when they got done trimming them, I just stared and looked up for like 2 weeks. Like every day I would come home and I was like, oh my, this is just amazing. This beautiful canopy all over my backyard. Mm-hmm. And my backyard is constantly littered with the little oak tree leaves. It's like you're camping. It's like it's a campground. And it's just totally awesome. So I am totally with you on the oak tree train.
All right, Joe, if you see me at your house, I'm not stalking you. I'm staring at
No, you can come check them out anytime you want. They're beautiful trees.
Yeah, and Alex says that's a good choice. She also has 5 of them, and a giant canyon oak in their yard.
Oh. Okay, nice. Yeah, I'm a sucker for the oak trees. My neighbor, who was previously the mayor of Laverne, has this amazing red oak, and the leaves are a little bit different. It's just beautiful trees. Oaks.
Yeah.
Come on. Can't go wrong.
Very good. Any other questions from chat? Joe, do you have any questions or anything that we didn't cover?
I don't think so. I mean, this was a great presentation, and I think it gave a kind of a great overview of what Sustainable Claremont does. And it's interesting, I've been familiar with Sustainable Claremont just being in the Claremont community for the past, now going on 8 years. And it's interesting. I didn't really realize how much really our 2 organizations kind of seem to overlap, and they really complement each other quite a bit. So I'm really glad that we were able to make this happen and make this work, because this is definitely advantageous both to the Sustainable Claremont faction and also the Active Claremont faction. And I if we didn't have this blasted COVID thing, which I know we're all so sick of hearing, I'm already thinking oh man, we can definitely have overlapping events, and we can partner together, and we can do all sorts of these wonderful things, which we certainly will do at some point. I'm positive of it. But Stuart, thank you so much for doing this. This is a great presentation, and it's definitely great to get an overview of your organization.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. We'll strategize under the oak trees in a couple months.
There you go.
There you go.
Perfect.
Like
yeah. And actually, Active Claremont, we have an Adopt a Highway program that we usually meet once a month just to pick up litter on the side of the sidewalk or on the street that collects along Baseline. But that being a semi-city sponsored event. Obviously, I mean, besides the orders that went out, it's also sort of a city event, so that had to be sidelined. But I think that both those kinds of events are like just an easy way. We're like out on the street for like an hour. It's not a big deal. And it's one of those like an easy way to just start getting involved. And once you go to one of those types of events, you're involved, like you're hooked, because it's like that was like an hour. It didn't feel like an hour. We were just walking on the street, like, and I imagine that's very similar to composting, which sounds very complicated, or for whatever reason people think is very involved. That's really, once you get up and running, it's very, doable. It's manageable.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right on. Like, it's one of those things. Sorry, I'll not talk too much.
No, absolutely.
But it's the same thing where like you're not going to pick up trash when you do that. Like, you're going to chat with your friends.
Walk with your friend. Yeah.
You're doing something good at the same time and that you can feel good about. Mm-hmm. So I think it's direct alignment there. Sounds great.
Definitely. I think we are good on questions. If I missed any, and I'm going to be bold and say I'm just putting that out there as a general caveat, because I'm fairly confident I didn't miss any. But if I did, it wasn't intentional. I'm sorry. And weird, I'm not sure what happened with that screen glitch. So hopefully we didn't lose anything. Just a little glitch in the system there. But huge thank you, Stuart, for setting aside time to come and talk to us. Again, I think Sustainable Claremont, this is my second presentation with Active Claremont, with Sustainable Claremont. And I think if I didn't know, I think a lot of my neighbors, for example, have heard of Sustainable Claremont, but aren't exactly sure what Sustainable Claremont does exactly, or how they can get involved. And I think that's one of the big things that I hope everyone has taken away from this is it's very easy. It's very easy. An hour of your time, an afternoon. You don't even have to necessarily stay for the whole event if you don't have time, but just come out and learn a little bit about it. Because this does affect us all, no matter where you stand on environmental issues or anything like that. You're talking home values, you're talking general shade, energy savings. There's a lot of different reasons to kind of get involved in things like this. And it's stuff that, in general, this would be my personal statement on the matter. It's stuff that you're already doing the work on. You're already doing a lot of, you're already involved to a point. You may not realize it. But there's a way to get in maybe just a little deeper that would be super helpful and tremendous to organizations like Sustainable Claremont, for example. Even just liking and sharing their posts on Facebook and Instagram, like we said, you may not realize how that is being used by people that are supporting Sustainable Claremont, but even just doing that is huge. Very good. Well, thanks everybody for coming out tonight. Huge thank you, Stuart, for again setting aside some time tonight. Best way, I know you said it a couple of times, but let's leave you with that last. How can people get in contact with you, Sustainable Claremont? What's the best way to go from here?
Best way, go to sustainableclaremont.org, and there's a contact form on there, or just email me directly, Stuart, Stuart, at sustainableclaremont.org.
Very good. Okay, no other questions coming in. So, Active Claremont, I'm going to go ahead and call the stream here. Thanks for coming out. We appreciate it, and we'll see you next month.
Bye.